Right, so can we put them up, please? All right, so are there any questions on that amendment, Councillor Forsyth?
Yes, and it's either to the GM or the CEO, maybe the CEO. So what are the consequences or implications for council or councillors in the case of the motion around making a decision that could potentially go against the advice of experts in this field?
One against legal advice in the past.
So CEO or?
So who's the general manager, CE? Who's the question is this is an amendment against the advice of Opus and yourself. So what's the consequences of that?
So basically, Chris has gone to quite a great length to outline his views based on the expert advice of Opus, as well as his team's expertise, that the option put forward by the residents, being the option 4, isn't at this point in time considered safe. The general managers also outlined very clearly that aspects of the advice of the solution may well be tested by New Zealand Transport Agency's assessment of various intersections, including Seagull intersection. So there's information soon to come. I don't think it's advisable for council to make this decision or make the decision put forward in the current amendment. The consequences would be if council made a decision. There's a number of what ifs, so it's quite hard. So if council went ahead with option 4, if it was against, and it is against the advice of experts, if there was an accident that caused an injury, if that person decided to take council on for the decision to put that intersection there, there may well be a response against councillors themselves.
Could I ask a follow-up question? If there is an accident as a result
Can I finish
of
my
us deciding to go away to staff,
Councillor McPherson.
what's the consequence
Councillor
Councillor
McPherson. Councillor McPherson. Councillor Forsyth was still shared the floor.
Does that speak to the working group decision as well? And I'm trying to ask the same question that could potentially apply to both situations. So we've got a working group. It's made up of councillors, staff, and if hypothetically the decision.
Sorry, Councillor, carry on.
Yeah, the decision went against again the expert opinion. It would be a similar result, implications.
So ultimately,
are you talking about the motion?
Yeah, separate.
Can I ask that question then when we come to the motion?
Well, if you just scroll down on the motion, because the working group relates to the motion.
Yes.
Right.
It's a similar. I wanted to ask the same question. I would have thought it's how it can be applied to both the amendment and the motion, because at the end of the day, we're asking councillors in the working group situation, and just by the way of the amendment, that we're potentially going against. Well, the amendment is going against the expert opinion, but in the working group, that potentially could go against the opinion as well.
One of the advantages of the working group is the working group can consider the NZTA report that comes out at that point in time about the opportunities regarding a Seagull intersection. It may be the NZTA come back and say, if you address it, and up until a couple of weeks ago, I never learned what a Seagull intersection was, but maybe there are solutions and mitigations that we put in place that they recommend Seagull solutions. I don't know. We haven't seen the report yet.
Okay.
So it does give a vehicle an opportunity, and it gives an opportunity for councillors to work closely together with the residents. And the residents may have views they want to express, and likewise councillors may have views if they want to express. Councillor McPherson asked a question about, in reverse, the difference. I know he didn't fully finish answering, but I will answer that question.
Well, I think I better ask it by myself.
Look, I'm sorry, but I still don't understand.
So basically,
sorry, Dave, but I just haven't quite.
If decisions made where there isn't evidence to support the decision, then council can be challenged. And that's the same approach that we had on a number of decisions we made this council. We make sure the staff make sure there's the right evidence to put in front of it. Council makes a decision based on that evidence. in circumstances where there's evidence being put forward to the contrary, and council makes a decision to the contrary against that evidence that causes a health and safety concern, councillors could well be liable.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Right, finished? Okay, Councillor McPherson?
Yes.
And this is sort of clarifying
This,
these
yeah,
things.
I'm on the same wavelength, if you like. The other, there's the down bit of the wavelength, not the up bit. What if staff have given us incorrect advice and we've followed it? Who is liable, if anyone, then? And I'm particularly referencing traffic issues, transport issues here. And for instance, advice we've had in the past from NZTA about the type of crossing of Cobham Drive that ought to be built, and we've had serious accidents on there because there's been no crossing built.
Yep.
We've gone against the advice, so there
understand
have
the question.
been consequences following some of the previous advices we've had.
So, sorry, Councillor McPherson, I thought you were going to continue. I don't want to interrupt. So the commentary comes back to the evidence that's provided, and also I said before a linear aspect of ifs as well that give rise to it. But there is a possibility in the case I explained through Councillor Forsyth's question, there is potentially liability for councillors. But it's level of evidence. So if the decision's made at the point in time where we believe we've done everything we can to obtain all the necessary evidence to support the decision, in the case here, we've done all the work and the necessary evidence suggests that it's not the right decision to make, and that's the point of difference.
But we haven't actually done all the work because, for instance, we haven't done the crash analysis, or at least some of that's been referred to in an earlier question, the other type of CEDRA modelling.
Yeah, so, but the point, and I think that's, I'm a little bit confused, but I'll try and answer.
You could become a traffic engineer if you try.
Yeah, but that's why I think the General Manager's resolution and also the motion put forward by Councillor Young addresses that aspect. What it says is that it addresses the immediate risks supported by experts in this arena in terms of the left turn. It also then provides an opportunity for us to receive the NZTA report. It provides an opportunity to do some ongoing monitoring, and it provides an opportunity to work closer with the community. If after all of that it comes back that the experts come along and say, actually, given everything we know now, given the monitoring that we've done, given the impact of this, we believe that a seagull or a half seagull or an albatross is whatever it's called is the best solution, and that's the best solution. But it's evidence-based, and that's the point.
But that's not the staff resolution, is it?
Well, the staff resolution is not significantly different. The only difference with Councillor Young's resolution is effectively the working group to work alongside, is my understanding, effectively staff in terms of assessing the monitoring information.
Right, thank you. Okay, so we've got a motion and we've got an amendment.
Excuse me, Your Worship.
Yes.
I might just want to add a little bit on the motion just to clarify that.
Right,
Representative
that is-
and two councillors, one of each will chair the working group. Mary can pick it up.
Very last bit.
Yep. There. One of which will chair the working group.
So
Just
one
to
of the
clarify,
councillors.
one of the
Jim.
councillor, yeah.
One of the councillors
Yep.
to chair the working
Yes,
group.
that's right.
So just on that motion, I think we need to name who the councillors are that are going to go on this working group. It's just a lot easier if we put the names of who are they.
Nominate Councillor Young.
I'm just asking who are
No,
they?
well, I'm suggesting
So,
that.
so do you want it to be the mover and the seconder? You're both on that side. You're both on that ward, aren't you?
Yep.
Okay. So if people are happy with that, the mover and the
Yep.
seconder, you didn't know that I was going to point to you, did you, Kat?
No, I didn't.
Vasco?
Yeah.
No.
And
There we go.
one more point
I
there.
suspected though.
One more
Alright.
point there. The
You're accepting
NZTA,
gratefully, aren't you? Good.
the NZTA report, as General Manager mentioned, will be by July. I put it there by December, so just wonder whether we need to change it. The
How
report.
confident are you, though, about July? Because we've had these situations before when it's a third party out of our
Yeah.
control. So
Look, I'm just acting on information that we've been told informally. I've put December to be safer, but look, if the report was available to us in July, we'd tailor it
You
to
take it.
July.
Yes, okay, just
Yeah.
leave it then. Yeah.
So I think you should leave it, Councillor,
leave it,
just
yeah,
for the
sure.
buffer.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so if we could put that, and that Councillor Young and Councillor Pascoe, yeah, will be on that working group, and they can decide who's going to chair it.
Young.
Question.
Yeah.
Yes, so I'm coming to you, Councillor Gallagher. So we've got that up there? Good. Okay, Councillor Gallagher, you had a question
So
on
I'm
that?
interested in the word, very interesting, and I'll be subsequently calling for a proper legal report in terms of current legislation where councillors may pursue a resolution that disagrees with staff advice, because I want to tell you historically I can point many examples of where the council itself has done transport things that are not in accordance with staff advice. And then of course part of that report will also look at what is the liability if that advice is incorrect. And that's really important. So I think it's another day, another subject, but you do raise within current legislation. I think it's something we need to clarify in this area, because it really strikes to the heart of any council's ability as elected members to go for a particular option and the way, how they get there. I think I hear what you're saying, but I think it'd be quite good to...
Could I just add just an aspect to that? I mean, it's our role as council staff to give all the information we can for you to make a decision as elected members. It's about enabling democracy. And this, I just want to draw to it, particularly in this case, is regarding a safety aspect, whereby we've had independent experts assess a particular option as being unsafe, and that's the context I'm drawing it down to that field, and I will get that advice for you.
I think it is, because you've mentioned the word individual liability, which is quite important. The issue I just want to get with the Young Pascoe motion, motion, is to what degree that can actually in reality bring together and focus on the residents' concerns, mainly because it's talking about a specific option, right? And all the option, when I look at option, as per option, Opus alternative option 1, as per page 34 in a picture, you know, I mean, obviously that...
So what's your question, Councillor?
Well, the question is, if we're going for that option, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, the residents in their submission expressed some very grave reservations around that particular option. I mean, I'm just trying to work out...
Sorry.
Are they right?
Where are you at? Are you about C, are you?
Seagull type intersection.
Seagull?
C.
Yes.
We're not looking at any specific recommendation.
No.
It is the whole of the area of
Yes,
Seagull.
but you're talking about Opus alternative option 1.
No, we're not. No.
Well, the resolution
only
is
for the
Opus
left-hand
alternative
turn.
option 1, which I've attached to a picture on page 34, and which said picture was, you know, the residents, when they made a submission, expressed, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, expressed some real reservations around that said picture in terms of that said exact model. So I'm just trying to tie up there. Could you just help me here, Chris? I'm trying to be helpful.
Look, in the interest of being helpful, I think what we're looking at is two issues. One is dealing with the left turn
Councillor
slip.
Green and Councillor
option.
Mallett, look, I know you want to chat away about stuff, but I have to tell you, it is extremely irritating because we can hear it reverberating around. So, you know, if you want to have your chat, fine, but can you go out? Thanks.
So I think there's two issues here. One is that we're recommending, and that motion up there recommends to get on and do the left in, left out. It's in accordance with the Opus option 1, remembering that we'll put that through a full design and safety audit process to look at the details of that, and the working group will give us an opportunity to keep the community members up to date with that. It's on the basis that I've indicated that it will not preclude the residents group option right turn out. So you can, it's our belief, and we'll test that through the process, that you can do the left turn in, which will address the current crash problem and the crashes. It will not preclude the residents option. So when you go to C, it's saying that we'll do the left turn in, we'll monitor the intersection, and we'll review the Huntington residents group's Seagull option with the benefit of that New Zealand Transport Agency research. And look, and we're clearly saying at this point in time our evidence says it's unsafe, but through that process we might get to common agreement that it is okay. So I don't think they're in conflict in terms of B and C.
So basically what you're seeking, and then the next time we see this as a full council, is when that report comes back into council, basically, and you're going to tell us, obviously, that we've achieved.
I'm just looking at
well,
the
if you look at the
reference,
report back and
Look at E.
report back to council when completed.
So this
Yeah,
is basic.
so when we've completed that, there's an obligation
This is
to come back
a
to
working
council.
group's going to be set up under the motion. They're going to look at all the stuff, receive all the reports. It's a multi-party working group, and they're hopefully going to produce something
Yep.
that ticks the boxes for everyone.
That's right, we may come back and reconfirm our advice, we may come back and
Yep.
say, look, the evidence now
Yep.
supports this intersection, and I think we'd take it to a little bit more detail, because we're really looking at a cartoon or a concept design, so we might have to put a little bit more work into it to see how it
So-
works, and we'll come
Yep.
back.
What
Okay,
you're
good.
telling me is the Opus alternative option 1, as per the picture attachment 1, page 34, it is not, absolutely not a fait accompli.
No, our recommendation is that we do implement that option, which will deal with the left turn in. It'll go through a process of detailed design, and it might change slightly, but the basis is that option. That's our recommendation. Once again, but it won't, in our view, preclude the right turn out option that the residents group want.
Right.
So we're taking a two-stage approach to it, deal with the current crash problem now, work with the residents group, see whether we can get their option across the line, and the third one is the long-term option as well,
Okay.
which has got its own.
Thank you.
Is it a question,
Yes,
Councillor
yes,
Young?
I just want to have
Never
a clarification
so
about my
many
own
questions on
motion.
motions and amendments.
Just to make that clear, the point B actually is to do that, the left turn into Huntington, that's slip lane as soon as possible. That is the one to be done. And other than that, let's say removing the red car or increase the waiting area, that is the next step. You're not going to do it at the same time, right?
No, we
Yeah,
won't,
that's
because when we come back and we've evaluated
That's right.
the residents'
Yeah, that's
option, I would
Yeah.
imagine we might compare it to some minor improvements on the
Yeah,
existing
okay.
arrangement or something.
That's
So-
good, thank
Councillor
you.
Mount, did you have a question?
Yeah, this, I think the word might be sacrifice, is it? So we're prepared, could very likely be a sacrifice project, and we know it's not going to be long-term.
It will be probably sacrificed only at the point in time when you're four lane, so
Okay.
it'll be a long time in the future. So I think, the work and the scope of the work we're doing now is worthwhile doing to deal
Okay.
with the crash problem, but when you come in four lane through there, or put the longer term option in, it could very well be sacrificial, but that could be, the four laning could still be
10
some
years.
time away. Yeah.
All
Thank you.
right, so we're clear, we've got a motion and an amendment. Can you go down to the amendment, please?
I'll speak to the amendment.
Right, so councillors, we'll deal with them together. We'll deal with the motion and the amendment together. So I'm going to go to the mover of the motion first, councillor Young.
Yes,
Want to speak?
thank you, Your Worship. Yes, it's really a good discussion and good talking about the Huntington Drive intersections. Actually, I was a resident in Huntington from 2003 to early last year. I lived there for 11 years. That was before the ring roads opened and after the ring roads opened. And I can tell you a lot of those what I saw. Broken glasses, headlight bumpers. It's every time I can see all over there. Even one actual fact, my wife had a near miss 2 years ago. I think she was pressured by the vehicles behind her. She made the wrong decision, and I think just a split second she missed that. That was okay. And I guess that perhaps was one of the reasons why I moved out of Huntington. I'm sorry to say that. You all know there are only 3 intersections in Huntington. Of course, the best option is to make them all left turn, left in, left out. But that means we'll be going around circle. So somehow we need to do something to address the safety issues. And I think this time we do have a little agreement with the residents group and council and the report, which of course some of the things I may not be agreed totally. But as someone who's using Huntington intersection in the past 11 years, I am one of the users, same as those people who are sitting here. And for all of us here, we drive, we turn right onto the road all the time. But what we're looking at now is returning onto the road, which is 80K. It's quite different with turn out to the road with 50K only. And to show you about the residents' concern, I know on last Wednesday night, on a very miserable night with strong wind and heavy rain, the resident had a meeting at one of the church, and there's about 100 people show up with another 30 apologies. So you see how many people are really keen to come and look at it. And when the question was asked about, are you scared to turn out from Huntington Drive, turn right onto Waverley Drive? 80 people put their hands up. When they rephrase the question, how many of you concerned about your safety when you turn right onto Waverley Drive? Everybody. Everybody put their hands up. When asked about how many of you turn left onto Waverley Drive down to Gordonton Road roundabout and return, come back, 30 people put their hands up. And from that 30 people, actually 8 of them, they said they used the Wangari Drive, right? That's another intersection in the middle. They turn into that road, make a U-turn, and come back out again. So this is just some numbers to show you residents already trying every possible way to make themselves safe. And what we're doing now is to do something that at least to address the issues. And of course, I mean, the amendment is saying about do the option 4, but I do understand what the CEO mentioned. And also, I do not feel comfortable to do something which sometimes is against maybe the professionals or engineers. But what my motion is just to do that left turn slip lane first, and then we monitor and do all the rest step by step. And I believe we should remove that red car or the stacking place, the waiting bay in the middle need to be adjusted or do some more work. Or even when I talked to the deputy mayor early on, we should put some sign up, slow down, merging lane, just warn the driver, be careful. That is something we can do with a minimal cost. So that is something I want to do. And also our motion basically is to set up a working group that's to address some of the issues and concern from the resident group. So we'll have 2 councillors, 2 staff, and 2 resident representatives, and we do the monitoring work. And I believe in the long term, the Waverley Drive need to be improved, or the intersection, or maybe just one. And that will be another report will come back to us, showing us what will be the best way to do to address the issues. Because after all, we are looking at about 650 houses, about 2,000 people who live in Huntington. And every day, they are the daily user. They know how the situation. And I might suggest some of our councillors, our fellow councillors, just drive around there in the rush hour, see how you're going to turn right on the Waverley Drive. So I've really, hopefully you support the motion and just move things on, and then have the working group monitoring what's going on and keep making more improvement about safety. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Point of order, Your Worship.
Deputy Mayor?
Just point of order.
What was your point of order?
Just that the screen doesn't let you see the whole thing. So can you just point it out? I assume the first
I'm not
2.
sure.
Hang on. So I assume the first 2
Not
are
a point of-
reporters received, and they are just straight out of our. Well, if you can't see the amendment, it's
I know,
bloody difficult
Councillor
to make a
Mallett,
decision.
it's not a point of order. What it is practically I can't see it.
Yeah.
Fix it up. And that's another thing I've added to the note for the Chief Executive about allowing us to properly see the motion.
That's neat. I'm really looking forward to that. But so just for the moment, am I right? Okay, so A and B are as per the our agendas, are they? Identical. Okay, and
Right, clear?
then A, B and C are the same.
I know it would be good to have it in size 25,
Thank you.
but there we go.
So, councillors, just to be clear on that, on B, there is a change. It says soon as possible, which wasn't in the first one, and that was to really be very clear that we're going to go on and do the left turn slip lane while we're doing the other one. So as soon as possible is a change wording from the...
Can you see that, Councillor Mallett? You're squinting your eyes, so...
Yeah, C is quite a bit different from the agenda A.
All right, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. This is the first time in 12 years, almost 12 years, on this council that I've gone against professional advice. And in saying that, Chris, I need you to know that I hold you and your staff in the highest regard. So I haven't taken this decision easily. Certainly I'm one of the 30,000 expert traffic engineers that Councillor McPherson identified earlier in this debate. And I certainly say that councillors should challenge professional advice, and we do that all of the time. And we ask questions and we challenge. And in the past, councils have disagreed with legal advice and that has been at the risk of council because the result has cost this council some hundreds of thousands of dollars. But this has been an issue for 2 years. And I visited with the residents, along with Councillor Mallet, Tooman, Young, and I've been impressed with the residents group and the way in which they have tackled this project. I suppose when I read their response to the council report, where the residents seem now to prepare to accept a working group as an option, I worry that we back them into a corner. So what they're saying now is, look, we'd like to have another buck's worth on this because we realise that this may not go through, so let's accept another option which will take some time to resolve. And I ask, what happens if the working group's expert, outside, independent traffic consultant finds against the residents group and they're not going to be happy with that result? I mean, that's just the reality of it. And I don't know what they would do then, whether they would give up and accept the outcome or continue to challenge. And Councillor Young kindly mentioned a very simple idea about signage, and I have mentioned it a number of times. And it's some signs, not just one, but there might be several, in black on yellow, which is a good colour combination, that simply says, slow down, cars merging. And I'll leave councillors with that. And that is the challenge for you, to go against professional advice, toss over 2 years of work by the residents group. And I haven't talked with them, but I personally don't believe that they are happy with accepting an option that takes it into another environment, another working group, another look at it, which may not give them what they want. Having visited it, their position simply makes common sense. Thank you.
All right, do I have any other speakers? Councillor McPherson?
Thank you for the opportunity to
Could you
address.
speak in your mic,
Thank you for the
please?
opportunity to address this meeting of the Transport Committee. I'm glad that it's come back to life. I was interested to hear some of Councillor Allen's comments before, but I feel that the time for councillors to make this decision has come now. We've heard from staff, we've heard the experts, and I have to say their advice is always good, but it's not always right, because there are other things that need to come into play as well. We're elected to council because we're expected to bring our experience to the table and collectively make decisions. And what we take on board when we make those decisions is the expert advice, but it's also our knowledge of the community we live in and common sense, which the Deputy Mayor's just mentioned. I can recall in the transport area on this council, I don't mean this last 3 years, at least 2 occasions where serious safety issues, traffic safety issues were being discussed. Staff gave advice on what we should do. Councillors went against them. One of them was the installation of more than one pedestrian crossing, where staff opposed us doing that and recommended, along with NZTA, that we just put an island in the middle of the road and not have a full-scale pedestrian crossing. And council voted against that, went against staff advice. I know what was the common sense decision. It was the one that the elected members came up with. It was also the safer decision, I might add. Another one was, was the installation, even more important. Staff recommended initially against us bringing in, across the board, 40 kph speed zones outside schools. Councillors said, no, that's wrong. Staff said to us, but NZTA won't give us the money. And we said, we'll work on that. But we went against the staff recommendation there too. And we did work on it, and we did get the right decision made, and we led the country by doing that. So I would say in this area, staff's advice is good, but it's not always right. Another time, staff and legal advisors recommended strongly against council bringing in the prostitution bylaw that it did in the city. They said we'd be too far ahead of the country, we'd have it overturned. well. It went through. We went against staff and legal advice. The High Court actually upheld our position at the time. And none of these to say that staff giving us bad advice. They're just there to say that there are times when our decision can be over and beyond, above and beyond staff position. That does not make it wrong, and it doesn't make us liable. Where we would be liable, and the Chief Executive maybe needs some more experience in this area, where we would be liable is if we didn't consider the staff evidence that was put in front of us. That's what we have to do, consider it. If we've considered it and made another decision, that's fine. So that's by way of background. I think, like the Deputy Mayor, this is the common sense decision. I don't necessarily have a problem if we end up going for the resolution there, because I think it may well end up in the same place. I think it's going to take longer, and they have been waiting a long time. And truth be known, Council dropped the ball when we extended Wairariri Drive in this area. We ought to have sorted out that intersection right then before we completed Wairariri Drive. We knew it was going to be a problem. Why we didn't, I can't remember now, but I was certainly on council, not like Councillor Gallagher missing during those years I was there, and I don't know why we didn't make the correct decision then, but now's a chance to rectify it, I think.
Councillor Pascoe.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'm speaking in favour of the motion, and I thank and congratulate the CE on clearly articulating what the motion that Councillor Young and I spent a number of hours writing yesterday and earlier today hopes to achieve, and that is to work through the necessary steps that will address the problems. I agree with Councillor McPherson. The concerns of the residents date back to 2008, and that's one hell of a long time to wait to get the progress that they have been seeking. But I think at the same time we have to move along the lines of ensuring that we consider the options properly and with safety in mind. We need to ensure that the outcomes are and remain compliant with road safety and NZTA best practice. I'm comforted by the fact that NZTA's study into seagull options is almost at its end, and I would hope that we would get some positive options to consider in the next few months, which will help decide whether option 4 or a variant of option 4 is the best and safest outcome. So for that reason, I do ask my council colleagues to consider very carefully the safety and at the same time the concerns, because I think Part D of the motion does address the concern that the residents have had to wait over 6 years to get to where we are now. So I do ask my council colleagues to consider the importance of voting in favour of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you very much, and I want to compliment the Deputy Mayor on his very eloquent argument to reinstate a Transport Committee, and I commend him on that. And we just, again, and I know that from a governance point of view, there's some really good aspects of our current governance structure, but I certainly recall the excellent Transport Committee that was chaired by Councillor Marika Westphal, and also the excellent Transport Committee that was chaired by Councillor Dave McPherson. And this is the classic example where this particular process needed to have been routed via that hands-on, sleeves rolled up, meeting with staff, meeting with residents, and a committee that had operational oversight and strategic vision as well. I've just received advice from the Chief Executive that I'm liable to be individually sued if there's an accident as a result of proceeding with the Deputy Mayor's motion, and on a very narrow balance and with some regret, I cannot now support the Deputy Mayor's motion because the Chief Executive has indicated that there is a potential vulnerability, and I think that's all he's saying. So what I'm now...
Had an overseas trust.
No, my mother went through the Panama Canal when she came out to marry my dad, but I think that's the closest I've ever been there on the good ship Rangatiki, but that's another story. I will just say to the Chief Executive, you've raised that issue and I respect you've raised it. Obviously what I'm now requesting, and you will follow up, is clarification around this issue. And the issue is different from other issues in that this involves the consequences of accident, all right? Of injury, there's a personal injury as a result. So I, having said that, do believe that the Councillor Young-Pascoe motion, hopefully, in perhaps a longer route, will actually get us into a very similar place. It'll take a wee bit longer, but I'm hoping that it will get us and arrive for us at a similar place. The other thing which I'm wanting to pick up in terms of Councillor McPherson, concern that, there was opportunities in the past around to get this whole intersection issue sorted, and I am very interested in making sure that before we spend any money on this solution, we're also well aware of the long term in terms of, the consequences of four laning, etc., and I hope there's sufficient innovation as a result. Finally, I want to compliment the residents and all the work that they have done to bring this issue back to the elected wing, and the quality and professionalism of their presentation. And I am going to be listening very, very, very closely to their views when this report comes back, because I know this is obviously strategic major ring road, obviously, so that's the city, but we must ensure that those 2,000 people who live in the Huntington area are reasonably happy and comfortable that we have landed for them, and from a safety point of view, the right solution. So I do wish Councillor Young-Pascoe and staff and the residents well in this particular project.
Right, I'm going to support the motion, but I have to say I've sat here for 2 hours today with some concern, and that concern focuses on how long this journey has been. And there sometimes comes a point in time when you have to say, thanks very much, I've listened to everyone, you've all had your chance and a decision should be made. So I guess it is with some reluctance that I actually accept the motion, because in my mind the decision time is well and truly over and we should just simply make a decision. And that may be one that residents may not be happy about. But when I reflect on what's been going on for the last couple of years, I think everyone's had an ample chance to have their say. There have been numerous meetings in the community, and the community's voice has been heard, and I'm really pleased about that, because this shows that you can gather together and you can have a voice and you can come to the council and have that heard, and it has been. We have had numerous experts pore over all of this. Why do we have experts? They train for many years. This is their daily diet, and while we may not agree with their opinions from time to time, they have spent, this is their profession, and they do know stuff, and we should accept that. We may not always like it, but I think when it comes particularly to roading matters, there's worthiness in listening to that. So here we are today, where we are going to set up a working group to rehash aspects of this again. And I guess in my mind I'm thinking, what happens if amongst the working group there is no commonality of view? Then what? We will be back here and someone will have to make a call, and that will be the 13 of us. So while I commend everyone's involvement on this long journey, and I'm with Councillor McPherson on this, goodness me, how long do these things take? I sadly don't have a lot of confidence that there will be a commonality of view, but it'll be a good process, I'm sure. And I hope there's a cup of tea and biscuits when you meet. But I suspect that we will be receiving a report and we will be required to make a call. So that is why I'm going to support the motion, because I'm happy to have some more talk, but I'm not confident, and I think we will be called upon. Now, I can't support the amendment because actually I would go with the expert's opinion, which is Opus. But I'm not prepared to test that because I am happy for people to talk some more. But I guess that's an observation I would make. So good luck, I guess is what I'm saying. Good luck. And I look forward to seeing you all again, hopefully after October, when I won't see you all again. And someone else will have to make the decision. Now, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Young, have a right of reply. Do you wish to exercise? Okay. We are going to... Oh, we can't go to the board, Chief Executive. I'm reminding you at every moment, aren't I? Because I want to do that. We are voting on the amendment. It's not the Waiwhakariki one, as you will see. It's one about roads. So we're voting on the amendment. So all those in favour of the amendment, raise your hands.
Those for the amendment are Councillors Chesterman, McPherson and Green. Those against the amendment? Her Worship the Mayor Hardacre, Councillors Young, Gallagher, Forsyth, Pascoe, O'Leary, Mallett and Tooman. The amendment is declared lost.
Right, we're now voting on the motion. If you're for the motion, raise your hand.
Those...
Is it unanimous?
No.
Me, I'm against it.
All right, so I think we can put our hands down. Those against the motion? Councillor Tooman.
Councillor Tooman.
All right, so the motion is carried. So as I said,
All right.
good luck. And look, thank you very much, everyone, for coming today. And Chris and your team, and thank you very much for coming. Councillors, it must be time for a cup of tea and, dare I say, a lie down for a few minutes. We'll return in 15 minutes.